everybody, and welcome to the PHLY post-game show. Wulf, Jamie Lynch, live from Wicked Wolf in downtown Philadelphia. We will be joined by Zach Berman in Tampa Bay in a little bit, and we are here to give the post-mortem on the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles season that came to an end with a 32-9 embarrassing, listless performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Jamie, I know that there is a lot of anger. There's a lot of time to place blame on the quarterback, on the coach, on the defense, on the front office, and all of those things. But I do think that whenever a season comes to an end, my mind always goes to all of the people in the organization, right? The coaches who put in all the hours, and their families who sacrifice that time, and the players, more so, who are putting their bodies on the line, and their families who sacrifice, and the people in the front office, and the people in the non-football side who all put their entire lives behind this team. And when it is over, the finality of it is final, and it is sad, and it feels a little bit funereal. And then to see the image on the sideline there with Jason Kelce, tears in his eyes, reflecting on what has been a Hall of Fame career, everything that he has given to the organization, to the team, knowing that there's a likelihood that this could be his final time lacing it up. And for him and for the coaches and the players and the organization to go out like that is just so dispiriting. And for them to be 10-1 and lose 6 of 7 to end this season, it is impossible to sort of divorce that from the high of last year, when it was maybe like the greatest fan experience that Eagles fans have ever had, even including 2017 to some degree. For that sequel to have been this just at the end. It's snowing outside here, and it feels like it is just like raining down on everybody in Philadelphia with the way that season ended. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason Jeffrey Lurie's in the locker room right now as we speak. Everybody saw the screenshots of him, or the camera cut to him in the booth, and that looked like a man that knew he was going to have to make some really shitty decisions here. Because when you think about Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff, and as you said, all the hard work, they went from overperforming year one to reaching the Super Bowl in year two to getting to 10-1 and looking like a top 1 or 2 seed in the NFL or the NFC to now this. It's remarkable what an epic collapse that really is. It's kind of hard to believe. Part of me was laughing when watching this. When Baker Mayfield. I mean, there were some funny moments. There was, but it's a very weird and different feeling, because they were in the Super Bowl last year, and I'm apathetic and laughing. And if I'm feeling that as like a diehard, lifelong fan, and everybody else here, there wasn't much anger in here tonight. Did you notice that? Yeah, I think that's right. There were more sarcastic cheers. Yeah, and I think Jeffrey Lurie has a good pulse of the town. And I kind of think when Sirianni decided he was going to kick a field goal, I think Kyle said this, and I've been thinking about it. I think when Sirianni decided to kick the field goal prior to the penalty, Jeffrey Lurie made up his mind. I thought there was a couple coward moments in the coaching performance tonight. Yeah, I mean, they punted on 4th and 2 on their first 2 possessions in this game. And as you said, it is hard, it is ridiculous to some degree to be sitting here, the totality of Nick Sirianni's 3 years. It is the 3rd most wins in any 3-year stretch under Jeffrey Lurie, right? There's a period of the middle of the Andy Reid area that just ekes it out a little bit. They overperformed in year 1, as you said, went to the playoffs. They overperformed in year 2, went to the Super Bowl, were a call here or a call there away from being Super Bowl champions, and they overperformed for the first 11 games of the season. And yet, the way that it ended, in this game, they score 9 points, their fewest points of the season, their second fewest points in 3 years. By success rate, it was their worst performance of the Nick Sirianni era. And yes, they were without A.J. Brown. That's fine. Again, the blitz. No plan against the blitz. No plan for what to do against a Bucs defense that embarrassed you 2 years ago and came out and tried to do a lot of the same things, and you had no plan. And then on defense, you know, the Matt Patricia decision in the middle of the season remains sort of like the crux of what happened here. Who knows what went into that decision? Jeffrey Lurie knows better than we do, and that will be a major factor. But the defense, not good again. So many you know, when it's the third quarter of a game in the playoffs and the broadcast crew is bringing up their missed tackles reel, like, what are we doing?
Did Jeffrey Lurie have a hand in that decision with Sean Desai and Matt Patricia? I think that's a $1 million question for this offseason. I fully believe Nick Sirianni is going to be fired. And that most likely means his staff is gone. That look I got from Lurie, I'm not trying to read too much into it, but it looked like a man that, that was beyond embarrassment. That was like his brain was reeling and thinking, and he knows he has a decision to make. And it is wild to think about this, but I think the biggest factor in his decision making is the fact that you have a lot of sexy head coaching candidates out there. And I think that's working against Sirianni and his staff right now. I mean, when you mention the names Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, and Jim Harbaugh, those are four Ben Johnson's the chic, new, sexy one this year. But the other three are kind of some are heavyweights. Vrabel's bordering on a heavyweight in the NFL. I don't think that's good for Nick Sirianni and his staff's hopes of staying here in Philadelphia.
I'm not sure that I agree that that's the primary reason. If they do make this decision,
but
it's certainly a factor.
It's hanging right in front of Lurie's face.
And I think we can, the Belichick of it all is certainly the elephant in the room. But I think you make this decision regardless of who's out there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you make this decision, you make it because it's certainly I don't ever want to say a team quit, because there's 53 guys out there. It is such an impossible.
I could say James Bradbury quit on tackling.
Right. But if a team ever did quit, it would have looked like that.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that there never was that flip switched, that extra gear that they had, that was never there. But also on offense, you preach situational football. They were 0 for 9 on third down in this game. And if you don't want to be results based, you look at their possession at the end of the first half. They've got 1 minute and 50 left, one timeout. And it's a 9-yard gain, and then our 2-yard run to Kenny Gainwell, and we're taking so long to call these plays. They've been working on 2-minute drills with Kenny Gainwell in the backfield since July.
What is the obsession with Kenny fucking Gainwell?
And it's
I don't understand the screens to him on 3rd and long tonight. He's in every red zone play.
4 carries for 3 yards.
What the fuck does Kenny Gainwell do? He missed the blitz pickup in the end zone on the one that Hurts took a safety on. I'm not excusing Hurts on that. That was a borderline moronic play by him situationally. Now I'm sorry. Now the anger's starting to.
Yeah, I told you we could get to the anger. I didn't want to start with the anger.
Kenny Gainwell is what brought it out of me. What is their fucking obsession with Kenny Gainwell? DeAndre Swift, and here's the thing that with the offensive play calling, Brian Johnson, it feels like the only 4 runs they had tonight were the first 2 to start the game and the first 2 to the second half. Here you go. Here's a couple runs. Now we're just going to throw it nonstop. Jalen Hurts has regressed. This coaching staff is a disaster. And Bo, this is what I keep going back to in my mind's eye and my mind's conversation, because I'm a crazy person. And
maybe you need some smooth tea.
I had a couple of those. This is why it falls on coaching to me, because there's no chance in the world these players on this roster, which we know are talented, the proof was in the pudding just a year ago, they all don't just collapse like this. The offensive line looked like dog shit tonight. The quarterback has looked terrible for a month and a half. The wide receivers have seemingly, except for Devontae, he's one of the few that actually showed up tonight.
Yeah, I think you could count on one hand the number of players who really stood out tonight. Jake Elliott, Milton Williams, and Jason Kelce.
Yeah. But that's why it falls back on coaching to me, because there's no way it goes this bad this quickly from just the players. There's just no way. There's a loss of faith in that locker room. Maybe it's a loss of faith in the coaching staff, the philosophies, whatever it is. There's something beyond just player talent going on here, and I think that ultimately is what does this coaching staff in.
Well, we talked about it when they made the decision to move on from Desai to Matt Patricia at a time when they were 10-3. And, I brought up the thing that Fletcher Cox says about the calmer you are, the calmer we are. We want you to have a steady hand. And that was symbolic of them being completely uncalm behind the scenes, and that there maybe was some organizational rot going on, right? And to see it play out like this, worse than any of us could have thought at that time, I think it means that there's definitely change coming. The degree of what that change is, we don't know yet. But there are going to be some difficult conversations for sure between Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. And the thing that I keep coming back to is Nick Sirianni's marching orders. He has talked about this. The thing that matters most to me as a coach and to the guys in the locker room is, can I get you better, right? Am I putting you in a position to be your best, and am I helping you be your best?
Well, did Jalen Hurts have that this year?
And you cannot look at really, more than a handful of people on this entire very talented roster on paper who have overperformed, who have been put in good positions to succeed.
DeAndre Swift.
But even him, 10 carries for 34 yards.
Not even tonight. I'm just talking about the season as a whole. I'd say he overperformed.
But underutilized.
Yeah, right? Underutilized. Offensively, that's it. I know you have close to 2,000-yard receivers, but you have A.J. Brown, one of the most dominant wide receivers in the game, disappear for the final 6 weeks of the season. I can't give you an overperformed.
And you've got clear indications based on reporting from good reporters that there is all of this finger pointing and blaming going on behind the scenes. Oh, the quarterback is not the right kind of leader for us. Meanwhile, he's the same guy he was last year when everybody was lauding him for what a good leader he was. Oh, they disagree about what the offensive scheme is. This stuff doesn't come out in a healthy organization.
No,
right?
Now I'm just trying to think of guys that actually overperformed this year. And, defensively, can you name one? Jalen Carter, perhaps?
And not even,
Not even really. He's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, or at least be a top 2 or 3.
He should not win.
Top 2 or 3 finalists, I guess him,
just that would be on name recognition alone. Yeah, Kobe Turner had 9 sacks. Go Deeks.
There's who else? Zach.
Christian Ellis.
Thanks for getting that in there.
Yeah. The list of people who outperformed expectations is very low.
To me, that just goes back to coaching. And fair or unfair, that's the game that they play. And they're compensated pretty handsomely to do it. And that's, the risk they take. I don't think Nick Sirianni and his family ever would have thought 3 months ago they're here.
And listen, I think it is important to set the baseline that these things are very difficult. There's a reason that teams that go to the Super Bowl do not historically perform well the second year. They lost both of their coordinators, and they had to start the replacement searching after, most of the rest of the league had filled those positions. You have the physical effects of having played that late into the season. For one, you also have the mental burden of having to get everybody back in lockstep, knowing that they have been to the Super Bowl and maybe they all, get a little bit more selfish about what they're going to get. There's a reason that the Eagles, very specifically did not add another wide receiver this offseason, even in the late rounds of the draft, because they were so concerned about the dynamics of making sure that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both got their touches, stuff like that. And it is very hard to get, 53 people or 22 people on the field pulling in the same direction. It's all of these different variables. Winning in football at a sustained level is very difficult. But for it to collapse this dramatically, 6 of 7 in 3 of the most embarrassing losses you could imagine to end the season, from Jonathan Gannon to the Wink Martindale problem in an organization that was on fire on its own accord, and now this, the worst offensive performance of Sirianni's tenure. It's hard to fathom, and it's hard to stomach, I imagine, for Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah, that shot of him in the box, if a picture could say 1,000 words, I think he was thoroughly embarrassed. and that doesn't lend well for the decision makings. Look, if Doug Peterson, after doing something that no coach in the history of the organization had done, could get fired, and I know there was other factors at play, Doug protecting his guys, not making decisions he didn't want to make.
Yeah, somebody was asking me about like what Jeffrey has done timetable-wise when firing coaches before. When it was Andy Reid, it was the day after the season was over. Chip Kelly obviously was in the middle of the season, week 15 or 16. And then Doug Peterson, remember, it was a week later because they announced he was coming back. Then they had those series of conversations about the staff, and then they decided to move on.
Kyle Neubeck and I were over there talking about the line on when the news comes out.
And what a show out for the PHLY crew tonight. Kyle Neubeck was here. Devon Givens was here. Derek Bodner was here.
John
The whole
Foley from
the
the Philly
production
squad
crew was
showed
here.
up.
What a group.
But Kyle and I set the line at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon for the Adam Schefter tweet.
Ooh, I'm gonna take the over on that. I feel like that would be. I don't know though. Maybe not.
I thought Mike McCarthy would be fired this morning, and he's still technically employed. I think Lurie's mind is made up. Where do you like when there's this many problems?
I go back and forth on should the last game matter? Like he should have made up his mind going into this game theoretically, right?
I think
But I mean that last game. That's a hard lasting impression.
And like you said earlier, like if they had just showed at some stage here some level of competency, being able to pick up a blitz or show adjustment to pick up a blitz.
And you know what's bad? You know what's bad when like the football industrial complex at the highest level, your Troy Aikmans, like even like your Dan Orlovsky's, these people who are in the national media, who generally speaking do not make a point of going after coaches when they are talking about, oh boy, like this offense is giving nobody any answers. Like 4 stop routes against a man-to-man blitz. Like that is not a combination you run when you know you're getting a man-to-man blitz. And they do it repeatedly. Like that is not a good sign.
I came running over to you in anger because we were like kind of like 10 feet apart during this watch party, and I was taking my notes
because we knew we were going to be so close together now. Yeah. You got to give ourselves space.
It was the I want to say late first quarter, maybe early second, and Kelce was emphatically calling out the blitzer, and it was the middle linebacker, and the whole line was like, "He's coming, he's coming, he's coming." They went to a play that was slow developing. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat from the Seagulls. 2 routes on the right side. One
right
to
next
like
to each other.
7,
Devontae
8
and
yards.
Dallas Goedert were like right next to each other.
One to like 10 or 12 yards. Same flight path of the ball, and it was a slow developing play. They knew the blitz was coming, and it was vertical routes. Just like
it's hard to believe that was the answers they came up with.
Like they couldn't pick up a blitz. Tampa should have blitzed every play tonight.
I mean, they almost did.
It was like 2nd and 3rd downs a lot. My voice is.
That's all right. It's a time for us to pay some bills with the answer because we are here at Wicked Wolf thanks to Smooth Tea. And I hate to burst your bubble, but if you are still settling for spiked seltzers that leave you bloated and unsatisfied in 2024, you are settling for less than you deserve, and you know it. Smooth Tea is in, baby. Questionable ingredients and bad aftertastes, they're out. Smooth Tea packs a premium vodka punch with real tea flavors that go down easy, just like your Philadelphia Eagles. No bubbles, no BS, just 100 calories, 5% alcohol, 3 grams of sugar, and gluten-free goodness without the guilt or the gut. Smooth Tea is here to give your taste buds the indulgence they've been craving with quality and ingredients you can count on every time. If you want more of the tea, follow @officialsmoothtea and @KikiVodka on Instagram to see what all the hype is about and stay up to date on events, new flavors, and all things smooth. We are live right here at our Eagles Watch Party from Wicked Wolf Chestnut. Thanks to Smooth Tea. Visit drinksmoothtea.com to purchase or locate a retailer near you. Home delivery is restricted to Pennsylvania residents only. Must be 21 or older to purchase and consume. Please enjoy responsibly. I'm going to tell you about Rocket Money, and then Jamie's going to tell you about Factor. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. Now, Rocket Money You know all about Rocket Money. I've been talking about Rocket Money. Saves me money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want anymore, I can cancel it with one tap. And the bonus is I don't have to do anything about it. I hit the one button, and they take care of the customer service discussions for me. They will even try to get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money to negotiate and lower your bills by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
All right, let me tell you about Factor meal kits, because, Bo, if you historically have eaten, like, kind of crappy like myself, and you want to get better about this stuff, I've learned that preparation is the key to this. You got to get ahead of it.
And see what works in conjunction here is if you do a lot of Factor, that means you can splurge on a bagel and co, which we'll get to later.
Not just yet. But yes, you got to plan ahead so you don't find yourself in the traps of eating poorly. And if you head to factormealkits.com/Eagles50, you can start your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Get ready to eat meal delivery and take the stress out of meal planning and set yourself up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, just get delicious, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. Over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more, plus 55 weekly add-ons. You have a ton of nutritious flavor options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rush dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in the new year. So fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals, all delivered right to your door. Factor has everything you need for a week of flavorful, nutritious eats. In addition to ready-to-eat meals, they have cold-pressed juices, smoothies, energy bites, extra protein, veggie sides, and more to keep me and you energized during the frantic times. So head to factormeals.com/Eagles50 and use Eagles50 to get 50% off. That's code Eagles50 at factormeal.com/Eagles50 to get 50% off.
All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts now. Because Jalen Hurts did not play well, and the numbers would not tell the story of that necessarily. He was 25 of 35 for 250 yards and a touchdown. What a play by Julia to just sneak you some cough drops on the side. I mean, you know, the Eagles may not have been ready for the playoffs.
We're on the same page.
She's playing on a high level. Jalen Hurts, not seeing it is hard to fully parse out what is Jalen Hurts versus what is the bad scheme, right? And against the blitz, they did not have a good plan again. Now, in conjunction with the Tim McManus report today about there being some disagreements between Jalen Hurts and the coaching staff on exactly the kinds of routes that they want to run, that's a factor here. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts, like, you know, taking that safety, you know, not throwing the block a couple plays before that on the very bizarre Kenny Gainwell run that it probably was one worth getting angry about. Jalen Hurts did regress a bit this season.
What are you saying? Some of my Kenny Gainwell hate is unjustified?
No, I'm saying that was worth.
That was one of the ones.
I mean, that was one of the silliest plays. Like Kenny Gainwell for a second thought he was Barry Sanders, which, you know, we've all been there.
Yeah. In Madden, I tried.
What did you make of Jalen Hurts' performance?
I mean, he's regressed. I think he's missing some plays on the field.
I guess we got to say that he's playing with the finger.
Sure. I mean, that's a factor, of course. But probably shouldn't have gone back in last week after the injury happened. Like, what was A.J. Brown and him, like, whatever.
We are also, I mean, almost guaranteed going to have some kind of offseason surgery for Jalen Hurts because he has not looked the same athletically. And there were like no called runs for Jalen Hurts in this game. There wasn't a single one, which was a major part of the offense last year and early in the season. And so that's an obvious tell that there's something wrong with him.
Yeah, I fully expect some kind of off-season procedure to come on his knee. I think he's leaving plays on the field. You know, like I just think he's missing things sometimes, and situationally, the biggest surprise to me, besides the missing plays, is his football IQ. Like that play against the Giants on Christmas Day, and then that safety today, were like a guy that's not paying attention to the situation of the game. Because, like, at that point before the safety tonight, you still kind of had a chance.
It was a 7-point game.
Yeah, like...
The defense had actually made a couple stops.
Yeah.
The pass rush showed up when they had a chance to just line up 4 guys and rush.
It seemed like that was the end of the game tonight. That safety.
Yeah, I think so.
And it just all went comically bad after that. That's just like, you know, one of those plays. Like if we watch Justin Herbert,
and then the Bucs go down and score a touchdown. Sure. So then it really was.
If we watched one of these highly touted young quarterbacks around the NFL make that same play situationally in the same spot, we're going, ha! This guy's overrated. He stinks. He's not all that. Like it was that bad of a play.
Yeah. When you were paying Jalen Hurts, when you were paying him to be a franchise quarterback, yeah, he can't make that play.
Absolutely
and he has
not.
made situationally bad decisions, game management-wise, all season long.
Yeah, and I think the play can bounce back. I think, you know, maybe a procedure or getting fully healthy can help. But that's what, like, kind of has me shook. Those 2 plays, Christmas Day and tonight, I'm like, how does that happen unless everything around you is just failing? Like, maybe I can chalk it up to that. Maybe I can just chalk it up to the Eagles universe imploding on itself, and maybe it's just a factor of that. But now I'm like,
get your Factor meal kits.
Is he, you know, the McLean story, like, is he this great leader all of a sudden? Like, the fact that I even have to consider that when I said going into this season, like, man, you couldn't, you know, build a better leader. Now I'm looking
I do sort of agree with the opinion that the fact that that people are blaming Jalen Hurts' leadership style is more indicative of, and it's more newsworthy because it means that there is all of this finger pointing going on, then it's newsworthy that, like, Jalen Hurts' leadership is in question because his play has suffered. The leadership is, like, it was great last year. It doesn't, I don't know. He is who he is. Like,
the leadership
can the organization for once just, like, support its quarterback? Like, do they have to be so dramatic every single time? Do we have to go through this cycle every single time?
They're addicted to the drama. As an organization, they are. But here's my thinking, like, does Jalen Hurts' leadership style only work when the times are good? Because
I mean, I think there is something to maybe this team is a bit of a front runner.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But like
there was no adversity last year.
Do you believe he's different behind closed doors than we see on camera?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because I see a guy that doesn't. I don't want to speak too like hot takey or too big here. I never see him, and I'm trying to say it that way because it's all I get the privilege of seeing, what's on camera. I never see him firing up his guys.
Well, it's interesting. The very first time, like his reaction tonight after the Milton Williams sack, when they were down 7 points, the Bucs were in field goal range. That Milton Williams sack gets them out of field goal range, and Hurts reacts like hell yeah. And it was noteworthy because I had never seen him react like that, and it was sort of a tell, right, that like he knew this thing was collapsing, and like wow, we're gonna have a chance again, and it like for him to react like that was like oh. This is different.
Yeah, so, like, does it only work if things are good? You know what I mean? Like, I just need, like, human emotion out of your leader. Now, you don't want your leader to go too far on the human emotion swing, but, like, and this might be unfair, but I worked like 25 Sunday Night Football Tom Brady games, and I used to stare at him and like study him from pregame to sidelines. I was infatuated with watching him.
And you never saw him eat a single strawberry.
He did sneak in an avocado once.
Shades.
But like, he wasn't emotionless. And Peyton Manning was the same way, and you can say it's unfair to compare to the greats, but like that's the standard. You know, you should want your quarterback. they would like smash offensive linemen in the face. They would smash their teammates on the shoulder pads on the sidelines. They would walk up and down talking to people and pumping people up. And Jalen Hurts goes to the bench and just like becomes Buddha and goes into this meditative state.
But don't you think it would be, if it was inauthentic, don't you think that would be taken the wrong way too? If that's not really who he is?
But maybe he needs to fake it a little bit. Like, I do think there needs to be human emotion from your quarterback. I don't think you can be a robot all the time.
I think
be effective still.
I think there's probably some truth to that. I think the real thing here is, like, you've got 53 guys plus all the coaches. Like, everyone's not going to get along, right? That's
absolutely.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's
all
human
the different
nature.
walks of life.
And when you're 13-3 last year, or whatever the record was, 14-3 last year, and you're not really facing adversity, and you're the best team in football, like, no one's asking those questions. No. Nobody's like, oh, well, like, Jalen didn't say hi to me today. Like, well, guess what? You just won by 30 points.
I don't even think it's like petty stuff. I just think it's like a roboticness. So, like, I don't know. I find it hard as a fan to buy it as genuine. And that may be who he is, and that's just the end of the story. But, like, I don't know. It seems so manufactured to me.
I think I would like to see him be a little bit more accountable. Zach made the point about how he could have covered for Sirianni after Sirianni covered for him on that play in the Seahawks game when A.J. Brown had to do it like a couple weeks later and be the one to sort of be the adult and say, that was on us. I think he could be honest a little bit more. And the thing he said last week about you guys don't know what you don't know. Well, we don't know what we don't know because you don't tell us anything. And I think there is some truth to that. But that's more about like the public messaging. And I don't know if there are guys in the locker room or people in the front office or coaches on the team who feel that way as well.
Totally. But it's 6-7 games where you're looking for a pick-me-up. You're looking for, somebody to change something. And if what A.J. Brown was saying before the the player-only meeting before Week 17 there, where we have to buy into the coaching staff. Like, if you know that, like, your team has turned against your coaches, more or less, like, that has to fall on you then, as the quarterback of the team, to be like, no, MFers, I got this. This isn't good enough. Like, all right, something different had to happen over these last 8 weeks from someone. Whether it was Sirianni, Brian Johnson, Jalen Hurts, the leadership of this team, I think something, and this is why I'm going back to coaching with this. Like, it's a trickle down of stink. Like, this starts from higher up than just not being able to pick up a blitz. This goes like to, maybe even above coaching a little bit. I think there's definitely some player personnel issues, but I think something stinks. And I think that's why the decision is going to be made, most likely. I mean, we don't know, but I think a heavy-handed decision is coming. Because I think there's something more than just football coming. X and O problems here.
I think that's absolutely right. Now, Brandon Graham in the locker room says he wants to be back for one more year if the Eagles will let him. It will be his farewell tour. I think that's fine if he wants to come back. I mean, he's not expensive, and if he's willing to come back, he's better than what some of the options are out there.
What does he give you, a $5 million hometown deal, something like that? $4 million? Fine. Welcome back, BG. They're not going to tell him no.
Yeah, I don't think so. Especially if he has no leverage. If he wants to come back, he'll pay for it.
Now, Jason Kelce, I think, by crying, pretty much sealed that one as his career's over.
I don't know if it's a done deal. I think he knows that was a possibility, which is why he was emotional. Now, to be fair, and I love Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce crying is not the biggest tell because he sometimes cries in the middle of press conferences. Just ask him about Christian Ellis and he might start crying.
Fair point.
There was that year where it was like every week we're getting Jason Kelce crying, and listen, I love it. I'm a crier too. It's good. It's important to be in touch with your emotions. This is a conversation that Zach and I need to have, but certainly him on the sideline there
Zach needs a little more Kelce in him?
Zach needs to be he needs to open the door to his own emotional availability.
Treasure chest.
Yeah, I think he likes to keep things bottled up. It's unproductive in his mind.
Yeah, this on the heels of the special last year, I think maybe Jason and Zach have a nice moment tonight in the locker room because I think it's the last time he's going to be seeing Jason in front of the locker. You think Zach will get emotional knowing?
Well, maybe he's going to want to join Zach's Monday Night Basketball League, and he'll see him in front of a locker there.
Oh, I believe they don't live all that far from one another, kind of. So, like, that's a real possibility. I wouldn't want to box bet Kelce out. Can you imagine the two of them on a team together?
Now, that is some good offseason content. That is a good idea.
But, yeah, Fletcher Cox, our coworker, he showed up tonight.
Yeah, Fletcher Cox, who had the week off last week, played a great game.
That was his last game as an Eagle. But good way for him to go out.
Yeah, he had now he's only credited with 1/2 sack, but he was involved in 2 different sacks.
He got at least 3/4 of a sack.
He did not get the credit for joining the Brandon Graham sack, nor the Milton Williams one, it turns out, but he was involved in both. He got the split one with Nolan Smith. And Nolan Smith alive for the first time.
How many? Do you have a snap count? That's not out yet, is it?
I could get the snap count.
Nolan Smith felt like played a lot tonight,
but only like in the end. It felt like once the game was sort of done and dusted. But you know, he actually popped a little bit in this game.
Can you recall a worse drop off in player performance than James Bradbury?
And what well timed, this song is Falling. You know. Bradbury keeps falling on the field. He can't tackle anymore.
Shady McCoy tweeted out in the game, number 24 has no interest in tackling. How did that happen? He was good last year. Like, how does this all happen?
Well, this is part of the conversation of everybody's got a piece of this, from the players to the coaches to the front office. Listen, maybe some of these decisions made sense in a vacuum, and it wasn't their plan going in, and it's just where they ended up. But they overinvested in 2 aging corners, and Darius Slay, we haven't even talked about, suffered what looked like a significant injury.
Yeah, you hope he's all right.
You hope that it doesn't affect his timetable to play next season, but
he was grabbing his lower back as he was
over
coming
30.
up.
James Bradbury's over 30, and at that position, there's a reason you don't see a lot of corners that age starting in the league anymore. And when it goes quickly, and the Eagles are going to have to pay a lot of money to move on
to get rid of Bradbury next
James
year.
Bradbury.
So. And I don't think there's any way you can bring him back. I mean, it was bad. And then you have Ricks and Ringo, was it, running into each other?
I think it was Maddox and Ricks.
Maddox and Ricks. Yeah. That was a good time. That was a good laugh during the game. Yeah, it's almost like the Eagles having success makes for...
Wow, it's like he's listening to the show because we talk about an injury and now it's popping. Like Slay's knee went popping.
It's like every time the Eagles have success, Howie Roseman seems to, as you said, in a vacuum, like kind of make these decisions based off of the previous success. I think that's like his biggest obstacle, is having success with guys, a lot of people becoming free agents, and bringing them back and thinking success will repeat itself. And it's a natural thing to do. I'm not saying it's like abnormal, but I think like when you look back at 2017 in the Super Bowl and then you look at last year in the Super Bowl, both kind of off seasons fall into the bad spotlight for Howie Roseman and some of the decisions he made.
I think that's fair. And certainly there is an interesting offseason ahead, player acquisition-wise, which we're going to have a long time to talk about, starting with the Senior Bowl in 2 weeks, Jamie. But before we do that, let's talk about Bagels & Co. Because
I love a schmear.
Who doesn't love a schmear? And if you love a schmear, Bagels & Co.'s got like so many different schmears.
This morning I was joking that they should come up with the artichoke bagel for the Dallas Cowboys. I guess you can just apply that. Yeah, throw some Kelly Green dye in there.
Yeah, something like a collapse or a bagel that eats itself. Brooklyn-style bagels made here in Philly with Philly love. They've got huge bagels, the biggest bagels in Philly. They have a large variety, usually 15 to 20 different types to choose from daily. The largest cream cheese variety, over 30 different flavors of cream cheese and schmears. The girl can have whatever bagels she wants. We are an affordable brand. This is Bagels & Co. talking. You get a lot of food for cheap, and in today's inflationary world, they think that's key. They've debated raising their prices, but they want to be an everyday brand and not some high-end place you go to splurge on the weekends. They're not artisan or mom and pop. They have a mom and pop feel, but they cater to the everyday individual. It's Bagels & Co., people. For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
Now, that was real, huh? We watched that tonight.
So let's talk about the game a little bit, I guess, because at no point did the Eagles look like a group of grown-ups. The Bucs come out, opening drive, guys are running wild, running free, but they settle for a field goal after a drop. Eagles come out, first down on a pair of runs by DeAndre Swift.
And that's it. The run game's over after that.
And, they've reached their limit.
Yep.
They paid their toll for runs. They didn't have to do it anymore. And they punted on 4th and 2. Now, lots of people making the case. If you have 3rd and 2 and you're willing to punt on 4th and 2, why not push twice? Right now, we can get to the 2-point conversion because maybe it's not so much of a given. But
that was an egregious
if you're going
penalty.
to be willing to punt on 4th and 2, then you should call 3rd down,
knowing you're willing to go for it.
right? Knowing you're not willing to go for it.
Oh, yeah.
They punt anyway. Very meek. If you're expecting the Eagles to come out with like their asses on fire in support of Nick Sirianni and Nick Sirianni to like be pushing different buttons, the first drive that was thrown out the window. Bucs go down and score a touchdown to make it 10-0. Eagles get the ball back, and guess what they do on the second drive? They punt on 4th and 2 again.
Good stuff.
Where is the aggressiveness? Where did it go?
Yeah, there was a lot
team?
of coward football tonight.
Now, for some reason, in large part because the Bucs had like 6 drops in the first half, the Eagles remained in the game. It became 12-0. The Eagles get a field goal, and then they score a touchdown to make it, 16-9, and they kick the extra point, but there's an offsides. They decide to remove the point off the board, go for the tush-push from the 1, and they get stuffed. Now,
Horrible penalty on that.
Certainly a face mask.
Oh, my God.
I don't think he was already stopped.
He was stopped.
When they were doing the face mask, which is not to say that they shouldn't have thrown the flag. They missed the call, but it also wasn't the reason that they were stopped. And it was like, oh my gosh, of all the bubbles to burst, like if we can't even do this one thing that we could still do, even when the rest of our team is collapsing, then what do we have left? And the answer was nothing.
It did kind of feel like that. Like they just have. Devon and I were talking, I think, during the third quarter, and I was like, I'm glad you're feeling the tunes in here. I just said, Jalen looks like a guy with no confidence. Like, it wasn't really, like, something I could, like, pinpoint. He just... And, like, I don't know. I think the whole team just had a lack of confidence to them. The offensive line was not good tonight.
I can't just stop thinking of lyrics. Excuse me, Bill. I saw you from across the league.
You knew this song.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm familiar with it.
It's a throwback. Is
this like 90s grade school?
No, this is college for me.
This is college?
Yeah. Chris Brown, very problematic, unfortunately.
Yes.
I mean, kind of makes bangers, unfortunately.
I don't think my Chris Brown knowledge exists outside. No, this is way too sexy for me. Were you like grinding in some fraternity party at Wake Forest to Chris Brown? Like,
yes.
Congratulations on the grind.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
This is very sexy.
Yeah, this is Jeffrey seeing Bill Belichick from across the room. He's struck out with Nick Sirianni. He's sidling over. He sees this beautiful curmudgeon in a hoodie, and he's thinking, I've got this turnkey roster. I've got a quarterback, which you haven't had in a long time, Bill.
Those man boobs got to be on my sideline.
You know my type. My type is people who come from the Patriots organization. I have had this fetish for a long time.
Well,
let's make some magic.
I do think that Boston love line connect with Lurie is going to play a factor here. Do you think he's a real candidate?
Yes.
So do I. That's wild.
It's insane. It's insane.
But back to the Eagles being obsessed with drama, what is more dramatic than bringing in Bill Belichick? Get those Hooters on the Bird sideline and some Kelly Green. Oh, baby. It's going to be like unlike anything we've ever seen. I really
No, it's going to be exactly like everything we've ever seen. Like,
but that caliber of coach, because then the Eagles will have had the 2 most successful coaches in NFL history. That's wild. Bill Belichick being a viable candidate for the Philadelphia Eagles' potential head coaching job is crazy to think about. Yet here we are. I'm fully convinced Nick Sirianni's gone. I'm really curious to see what Zach is going to tell us from the locker room and the vibe. I just think the Tim McManus piece coming out today, the Jeff McClain piece coming out, I think seeds are being dropped of what was going to happen in case of break glass in case of emergency. And the emergency happened tonight. And it had been 6 or 7 weeks coming, but they weren't able to right the ship. And that's just not good enough. Jeffrey Lurie does not like being embarrassed. And if one thing
who likes being embarrassed?
Some people really.
Yeah,
we don't kink shame.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I think like he makes decisions quickly. Like Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson and his recent track record, he doesn't let it get bad like he doesn't let it get the chance
This is the Zach Bermanism. Anything that must be done eventually should be done immediately. Like if that is his decision, he should pull the trigger.
And I think that's what is going to happen. And it's going to be a wild week in Eagles land. I'll be tuning in every day to you guys.
Got shows all week on PHLY.
Yeah, I'm really excited to read Zach's stories this week. Like, this is going to be a historically wild week at the NovaCare Center.
Now, the word from the press conference with Nick Sirianni that is ongoing right now on his job security. He says, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. There's a lot of guys in that locker room that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me as the head coach. I'm just trying to be there for our guys and our staff, which is a good answer.
So Dan Orlovsky just tweeted, I do not believe the decisions by Jerry Jones nor Howie Roseman are difficult. Football-wise, it's obvious. Oh, I thought he was implying that Howie's decision to let go of Sirianni was not difficult. I read that wrong. Football-wise, it's obvious what they both have.
He's saying,
he's saying that, right? Yeah.
He's saying he thinks it is obvious
Nick
that he should be
Sirianni has
fired.
to go.
Which is, I'm telling you, like
when he started,
for
when him and Aikman and
to
all
be
these
saying that Nick Sirianni should be fired
because they're very sensitive to the family aspect, the guys losing jobs aspect. Me, like Joe Hoagie Mouth fan, going, oh, get rid of these guys. They don't care about that. I don't care about that because they're handsomely rewarded, and I know everybody's affected. Blah blah blah. Who cares? The Eagles stink.
They certainly do. I should look at it because I don't know that there's another team in the league that finished the season 1-6. I mean, even the Panthers, right? Anybody else? Lost 6 of their last 7 games. Like
most teams turned it around in December and gave themselves a chance.
Maybe the Chargers, maybe the Commanders, I guess, but I don't know.
They're all fired coaches.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going to bring up as an example is a fired coach. And it just shows you, like, I mean, the NFL's hard, and, like, these guys know what they sign up for.
You know what's not hard, though? Your best bets. Kate Otten banging the over.
I wish I took an alternate line. I wish I went over like 76. Yeah, the Eagles can't cover the middle of the field. I mean, it just comes down to that. And the music stopped, but what does that mean for our...
I mean, that's pretty telling too, isn't it? I mean, if this Philadelphia Eagles team can't even keep people at Wicked Wolf until 12-14,
are they going to invest in the middle of the field?
Wicked Wolf?
Well, hashtag Wolf knows they need linebackers. But, like, is this going to...
the answer is no. Now, unless...
change their offseason...
Unless Bill Belichick is the coach and he takes over personnel, and then they're going to have to pay for some linebackers.
All right, so let's build the coaching staff. Wink Martindale becomes the DC. God, no. And who's the OC?
I need a good OC. That's not a mesh.
I need a good OC if Bill's coming here.
Well, here's the bad news.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be Josh McDaniels.
Oh, no.
They're getting the band back together. You thought this was bad.
Vrabel will get a head coach.
DC,
He'll get a head coaching job.
They're not going to work together. But Who knows?
Here we are. Jim Harbaugh.
Good news for Bill. Bill loves special teams. Michael Clay led the #1 DVOA special teams.
The special teams unit was the best part of this Eagles season.
And if you want to make the case that like a little bit of patience with a coach can be rewarded, you look at Michael Clay. Like everybody was calling for his job last year, and then look how good they were this year. So maybe you could say the same about Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni. I am so thrown off by the lack of music now.
Yeah. It's very weird to go from that environment to silence behind us. But here we are. Now everything's so loud.
It is a good metaphor for a football season. So all of this noise, and then all of it, nothing.
Lights out. Get out. The Eagles suck. But yeah, I mean, sports bars around town probably not pumped with Nick Sirianni either.
That's true. Not good for business. The defense, it's crazy that they gave up 32 points to a Buccaneers team that scored 9 points last week in a must-win game against the Panthers, and they weren't the problem in this game, but they were really bad.
That's a nice way to put it.
I mean, if you are Jeffrey Lurie and you're sitting there and you're paying Hassan Reddick all this money, and once again, he's dropping in coverage. He's like, what am I doing? What are you doing? And it's not working. They're not getting to the quarterback that way. They're not stopping the run that way with those 5-man fronts. And in the second half, all of their sacks, if you look at them, they came in 4-man fronts where it was just the 4 defensive linemen rushing the quarterback. And that was it. That's what the roster is designed to do. And that's what they were successful at. And when you're asking Hassan Reddick to drop into coverage, even if he's not that bad at it, you are wasting your personnel. And if the job of a coach is to work with the group of personnel you have and get the best out of them, mold your scheme to them, that is certainly not what we saw in the Matt Patricia version of this Eagles defense.
Yeah, and I think
plus all the missed tackles.
Sure. I think one of the big decisions, obviously the biggest decision of the year was that defensive coordinator change. I mean, I think the plummet rate and that decision went, hand in hand. And I'd really love to know who made that decision. Because if it is Nick Sirianni, you're 100% canned. If Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman
he can't make that decision all by himself.
That's what I'm saying. So Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, are they going to grant him some leeway there because they had a hand in helping him make that decision or stressing to him to make that decision? That was, you talk about your all-time backfires. I mean,
talk about your all-time backfires.
There's none bigger than that. I mean, those guys are gone. Sean Desai and Matt Patricia are gone. I don't know how you do anything.
It would be funny if Sean Desai is the only coach who survives.
He should be head coach. I might be
commissioner.
He might be the greatest defensive coordinator we've ever seen after these last 6 weeks. I mean, they don't look like they're prepared to play football games.
No.
They can't tackle. They can't blitz. They can't take proper angles. They can't cover. They're running into each other.
Their pets' heads are falling off.
I mean, it's straight up defensively embarrassing what has happened over these last 2 months. I can't recall a softer Eagles defense. There's not one.
I mean, that is the worst stretch of defense that I think I've ever seen.
Kevin Byard can't get off a block to save his life. Another Howie Roseman in-season kind of miss. Howie's got a lot of culpability in this season's failures. Everybody does.
Julio Jones came and went.
He did come.
3 catches for 22 yards. Devontae Smith, I mean, you got to give it up for Devontae.
He was awesome.
8 for 148, a couple of really difficult plays. Even there were 12 targets there, and the targets that he didn't catch, there's that one where he gets 1 foot down, then that crazy catch along the sidelines.
And he's so good. I thought he was going to get a foot down there.
He's probably going to get paid. You would hope.
You would think you extend him. Yeah,
we'll pay him this offseason.
And now the A.J. Brown weirdness just carries into the offseason. I was hoping that he was going to have the Lions game to kind of quiet that.
Now, typically what happens is the Eagles will have their locker room clean out tomorrow. Typically, that's what they do. And there will be a period of that time that is open to the media. So we will see if A.J. Brown speaks then.
Would you bet on? I would say no.
I would probably bet against it, but I don't think it's a definite that he won't. We will see if now sometimes they wait until after the locker room day, maybe 2 days to do the actual press conference. So we'll see if what they do
Unless
there.
there's an accelerated timeline of
And if they do that,
then
they would just do the introductory press conference, most likely.
Man, I never would have guessed. I know we joked about it like midway through the season. I never would have guessed we were in a situation where you're discussing, a likely next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's crazy. Zach is waiting for Jalen Hurts, who
I can't wait to hear the cliches.
is still changing.
It's going to be so good.
Usually takes his time.
Like, this is when I talk about, like, just be a human being. Like, I hope he comes out tonight and shows some emotion and, like, doesn't just give you the Saban cliche after cliche after cliche.
Now,
just react.
Historically, the thing to remember here, 2 years ago, and this whole thing has come full circle. They lose in Tampa Bay, and Jalen Hurts comes out for the post-game press conference in a walking boot and sort of reveals that he has been playing through this thing.
He comes out on the
whole time
on the walker tonight?
Yeah, in a wheelchair.
Yeah, like Paul Pierce when he shit himself in the playoffs.
So, yeah, we will see if there's anything like that. But
do you expect something to be done this offseason? Because I do. I think he was clearly physically off, Jalen.
Something like
a procedure, clean up.
Absolutely. I would be shocked if there is nothing.
Yeah. And again, just like, I mean, I know you don't. Is it even giving the other team an advantage to know you're hurt? Like, can you
They can watch the tape too, yeah.
Yeah, like, can you just, I don't know, just like be real and be like, yeah, I'm hurt. I'm playing through it because I want to be there for my guys. Like, what? Everything's just manufactured with him and this fucking team. God. They're just addicted to drama, Bo. They love the drama.
They do. There's no doubt about that. Okay, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
22 of 36 for 337 and 3 touchdowns with like 6 or 7 drops in there.
And 2 of those touchdowns were just kind of like thrown up.
And guys just running through guys. Vontae Maddox running into Eli Ricks, as you said. Kevin Byard just sort of diving out of nowhere at a guy.
Yeah, Maddox on that one was just completely turned around, had no chance on it. It wasn't even like the Bucs played well.
Yeah, that's part of the frustration, is that
like they were extremely beatable.
They let the Eagles just hang around in this game.
And then put up 32 points. 32 points from Baker Mayfield.
9 points against the Bucs.
This is a Bucs team that played Carolina last week and put up 9 points and limped into the playoffs. And they hung 32 on you.
Tied for the most lopsided loss of the season with the Niners game for the Eagles.
That one felt worse.
23 points.
That one felt way worse.
The Niners game?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was just like a total outclassing.
Yeah. This at least felt like you were kind of in the game
they
for
were
a
in it
long majority of it. And then that was the Big Dom game where it all went wrong. And Big Dom was,
he
was
thought
bad
that maybe
tonight.
Dom getting back on the sideline was going to change things.
Wasn't enough. Not even Big Dom could save the Eagles.
I do think like the Aikman of it all, like from the beginning of this game, Aikman came in like angry about the defense, like talking about how they didn't know where they were supposed to be, they're missing tackles, and you don't see that very often from like the national color guys. And so, he's getting that from somewhere aside from just watching it with his own eyes.
I wonder where he's getting that stuff.
And he's talking about the route combinations.
Yeah, their route combinations seem to be a real problem. Like, again, on that blitz pickup, I think the story of the game from like an X and O standpoint was it's just simply boiled down to their inability to pick up a blitz and adjust to the blitz. Because Tampa Bay was third or fourth in the league.
That's the story of the whole season, like on
But they're
offense.
third or fourth in the league in blitz rate,
Yes.
right? Like right behind
and
the
Eagles
Giants.
are the most blitz team in the league.
Where was the game plan for it? Not only the adjustment in game, but like you had to know that was coming early and often.
Said the same thing last week, said the same thing the week before.
But how? Like, how does that?
I don't understand. And this is the Lurie decision making again. Like, what do you want from your head coach? You want him to have the high emotional IQ we hear about, right?
Emotional intelligence.
It certainly seemed like Sirianni had that, and I think that he does have that. But for whatever reason, at the end of this season, the players did not seem to be following him in lockstep. You want your coach to have like some offensive innovation, bringing you some kind of advantage on that side of the ball because he knows that that's the side of the ball that matters. they haven't had that. I mean, there's no doubt that at the number 10 DVOA on offense, that's underperforming their talent level on offense, especially considering the lack of injuries they had. And then, are you going to make in-game decisions that we support as an organization progressively? And the 4th and 2 punts, the field goal you talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are we doing?
Yeah, just it's. And, look, Brian Johnson could be kind of scapegoatish here, but, it's Nick Sirianni's offense. I don't know how you keep either. I mean, there was no progression, no evolving as an offense when you were going through your worst periods. And to me, it's just I'd be shocked at this point if Jeffrey keeps them.
Shocked?
Yeah. Shocked. And that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Because I think Jeffrey also knows public perception and feeling and finger on the pulse and all that. And I think if he knows if he brings them back, yeah, the tickets and the merchandise will still be there next year, but the fan enthusiasm and excitement is going to be down big time. And the feeling about this team is just going to be another typical Philadelphia collapse and loser. I wasn't alive in 1963 when the Phils, or whatever year it was, historically just pooed themselves for the final month and a half of the season and missed the playoffs. But it feels like this 2023 Eagles team is going to be the team I tell my grandkids about. I remember the collapse.
Record, how this happened.
Yeah, they were 10-1 at one point, and then they just became a high school team. They looked inept for the final 2 months of the season. Confused, terrible. Inadequate. Lack of heart, players only meetings, escape rooms.
Escape room.
What happened in there this year? Because something bigger than just X's and O's happened.
What's bigger than X's and O's? Big X's, big I don't know. I got nothing. Jalen Hurts still stalling.
Yeah,
has not talked yet, so we still are not going to be talking to Zach for at least another, I don't know, probably half an hour.
So let's see. The game.
What do you want to do? You want to dance?
The game ended an hour ago.
Should we keep working on this date that we've got here?
Should I shotgun some smooth teas?
So tell me, we have siblings, or I'll pop a smooth tea. What are we gonna do here?
Yeah.
That one's better than the other one.
This one's the best. Okay.
Yeah, they're very smooth. But come on, man. The game ended an hour ago. He's just on my nerves. That's.
Lily showered, got dressed in, interviewed.
That is smooth.
Yeah, come on. What are you doing? You're killing me, Smalls. Just talk to the reporters. There's a gaggle of everybody that traveled to Tampa that only wants to hear from you right now.
It has to be on his time.
The main thing. Blah, blah, blah.
I think that's fair. That gets on my nerves too.
Come on, man. I hate this stuff. Just get it over with. Go out there with your pads on and your jersey on, get it over with, and then take your shower and go sulk in a corner. Just get it done with. Rip the Band-Aid off. You're not getting out of there without talking. Just get it done. That's where we're at. That I'm complaining about Jalen Hurts. I hate it here. This just feels Philadelphia.
Marcus Mariota had to play at the end of this game. That's how bad they were losing.
Jeez. And he's a free agent. Do you bring him back?
No. That was funny that I think Schefter put out the list of important free agents the Eagles have. And it's Marcus Mariota and Rashad Penny.
There was two on there that I thought were actually maybe tough decisions.
Good thing Rashad Penny and Albert O were on the roster all season long. Those were good roster spots to use. Todd Bowles from last year. Todd Bowles.
Yeah, they're just what a terrible night in Philadelphia Eagles history.
Yeah, they're a little revenge for Todd Bowles and Jason Light. Some long term.
Does Baker Mayfield now lock himself up there in Tampa Bay for another 2 years?
Because he lives in the stadium, right?
I think that was Cleveland Stadium, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I assume that's his
contract. Yeah. Do you get credit for beating up the Little Sisters of the Poor, a.k.a. the Philadelphia Eagles?
You know what? I actually do give the Bucs credit for proactively picking Baker as their guy among all their free agent quarterbacks from last year. Who I thought maybe they'd go Jacoby Brissett, who had a really good here with Cleveland, and Baker had not been very good. I think that was good. I give them a good job.
Yeah, Baker.
I have a historically underrated Jason Light because I have always hung on to that draft pick of Robert Aguayo as like no serious GM could make that pick. When in reality that may have been an owner pick. And Jason Light has done a really good job, and I am very impressed that they were able to have a 9-8 record, post Tom Brady with this roster.
Yeah, it actually is pretty impressive, and it's so funny that they're 9-8 and the Eagles finish 11-6, and two different like tales of a season. Like 9-8 is almost mediocre in the NFL, and the Eagles were 10-1 and ended up almost close to mediocre. It's really unbelievable. It's the worst Eagles collapse of my life. I don't think there's another one that even rivals it. It was pathetic. Yeah.
I'm just looking to see what else is coming out from people in the locker room. Not a ton.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's a fun place to be right now.
There was the clip of Dallas Goedert being upset on the sidelines with Jalen Hurts. Goddard explained that was about him, his own self, that he had made a mistake. Jason Kelce declined to speak. He said, "Not today, sorry."
Oh. I don't think that means much other than he's very emotional and probably doesn't feel like talking.
Yeah.
Brandon Graham, we talked about him. He'll probably be back. But Fletcher Cox, you believe, is going to be gone.
I don't know.
You think the Eagles? I mean, he did play well this year.
He was probably their best defensive player over the course of the season.
Yeah, it's a pretty low bar.
Now, I think they need to. I think they should extend Milton Williams.
Yes,
to
I
a
would like
team-friendly
to see
deal.
that.
If they can do that this offseason. He's entering the final year of his rookie deal. And you have invested first-round picks in Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. You would think that would mean you don't need to pay Fletcher Cox. But that's what they do, is overinvest on the defensive line. And so if it's still, all systems go with that roster-building philosophy, then I wouldn't be surprised if Fletcher's back.
Yeah, and again, the terrible thoughts in my head of Kyle Hamilton and Jordan Davis were swirling. He's been...
Jordan Davis made no impact on this game.
None. When has he over the last 6 weeks? I mean, the last time I remember him having a real impact was when he chased down Josh Allen and got up to like 17.8 miles an hour, and I was like,
yeah,
damn.
I think we joked it was like a video game where like him making that play was like the full exertion of his energy bar, and he never recovered over the rest of the season. It was like that was it.
Wasn't it like 62 snaps he played that day too?
Yeah.
Like that was it. That was his second-year wall. But like, it's going to be a long offseason, and tough decisions are going to have to be made because you have to dramatically change a lot with this roster. Like, defensively, you need an overhaul. And I don't know how you're going to do that.
You need some kind of haul.
You have 2 second-round picks this year, which is obviously huge in helping that cause. But, like, even the young guys on defense, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter obviously showed up and showed you a lot. Nolan Smith, question mark. Jacoby Dean is going to be entering year 3. Still no fucking clue if that guy can play football or not. Ricks, Ringo, the other, who else am I missing? One of the other young cornerbacks.
McCartney and Lennon.
Yeah, like, you didn't, like, you don't feel good about elevating any of these guys to starter status. Yeah, Slay and Bradbury.
And who knows about the Slay injury? I think you probably pencil in Ringo or Ricks, like them competing for one spot, I would guess.
I mean, your first-round pick has to be
a right tackle.
You think Lane's got that little time left?
I think that's how they do things.
That would be a fucking mistake. I don't disagree often with going after offensive linemen.
I think that's fine. I think that would be a fine pick. With 2 second-round picks, I think that's fine.
No. They need somebody at a linebacker or secondary.
They're not going to draft a linebacker in the first round? Come on.
In the second, they have to. First, they got to go best cornerback or safety available. They need a playmaker. Like, A lot of the problem, yes, was Desai and Matt Patricia tonight, but a lot of the problem was also philosophically how they build their defense. And when Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, and Milton Williams aren't getting home, and they were a little bit tonight, and you have nothing in the middle of the field to offset that, like, that's a problem. Tight ends are bigger than ever in the game.
Yeah, but I don't think that those positions need to be filled with first and second round picks necessarily.
I would have had Joey Porter Jr. here instead of Nolan Smith if I was in the war room last year. The Eagles are better with Joey
Brian
Porter
Branch
Jr.
would have been good.
Brian Branch would have been awesome. And the Eagles are better with those picks. Nolan Smith better work out. Jordan Davis better work out. Or they're wrong picks. Philosophically, they might be right.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think that philosophically the Jordan Davis pick was a good pick.
Kyle Hamilton was. Guy can play
I had Kyle
linebacker,
Hamilton over
safety, whatever you fucking needed.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, Jordan Davis is not making an impact on third downs, and he is not.
He's not making an impact at all, even in the run game. In the beginning of the year when he had energy and juice, like, you at least went, wow, this Eagles run defense is legit. You can't even run on this team.
You remember the first half of the season when their run defense was awesome?
We were literally saying your only option is to throw on this team.
We were saying the defensive line was better than it was last year.
You can't run on them. And now all you could do is gash them. I mean, they couldn't tackle as a team. There was White was bumping off of guys and getting catapulted around and getting like extra inertia on failed tackles.
Jalen Hurts doesn't deny being frustrated with the offense, but he points to himself as part of the problem.
Say that again.
So I assume he was asked about the article about whether he was frustrated with the offense, and so he doesn't deny being frustrated with the offense, but he says that he is part of that problem.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you're the one that touches the ball every single possession. I'm curious, like, internally, not that he's a problem or a bad leader or anything, but I wonder, because, these guys know what the problems are. They watch the tape together every week. If he's leaving plays all over the field, Kelce, Lane, BG, Cox, like these guys that have been here a long time are just going, are we really we have to go through this again? Where the highly paid quarterback is missing plays left and right and making the wrong decisions all over the field? I wonder if it's just as simple as that. Players only meetings going into week 18? Like, the guys in that locker room know, and they're going to speak. Jeffrey Lurie, and look, I'll probably take the over on that line, me and Kyle set on tomorrow at 2:30, because I think Jeffrey is going to want to talk to the veteran leaders in that room and get their impact and decision and weigh that heavily, because, I think he's going to trust Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce with his life. So, like, I think their opinion of what went wrong in these exit interviews probably are going to speak pretty heavily.
And I think I think you're right that it's about the guys who have earned that equity, because it would be problematic to just ask to over value the opinion of the players when it is it shouldn't be the players deciding who's going to get the best out of them. There are other factors, and it's Jeffrey Lurie's ultimate viewing of what has been going on over the past 12 months as the person who has the most information that matters most. But yeah, I mean, it's important for him to get that feedback.
Truly retiring, he might feel as though I can say whatever I want, and I can really air it out. And he probably loves the Eagles. His wife and his in-laws are Eagles, diehards. Like, it's kind of in his DNA now. And if he wants what's best for the team, he'll just air it out to Jeffrey and be like, yeah, dude, the offensive game plan, we would get it on Wednesdays, and we thought it was a fucking joke. Like, he might just be that truthful.
I mean, that would be aggressive, but yeah.
That would be awesome.
Sure.
And then Bill Belichick, come on down. Ben Johnson, come on down.
I'm going to need to get some Australian Open scores. Because I had my draft with my brother on for a season, year-long.
Tennis?
Oh, yeah.
You guys big tennis heads in the Wulf family, huh?
Be huge tennis heads, but
I mean, if you're doing an Australian Open draft.
We do a draft for total Grand Slam wins over the course of the year. So it's all the Grand Slams combined, 32 men, 32 women.
And you're denying that you're a big tennis guy, huh? I've never met anybody else in my life, including my friends who played college tennis, that have done that. I would classify you as a big tennis guy.
Well, it's mostly I'm a big, like, I will do any kind of draft.
Okay.
And it's a good way for my brother and I to stay in touch.
Is he a tennis guy? Did he play it? Did you play it?
I mean, I played it.
Yeah,
but not like as my main sport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I want to know. I want to know how the first round action's going tonight.
Who do we need in the Aussie Open? What do we got?
Well, I got 64 people.
I mean, Jalen might talk in cliches for another 64 minutes, so we might as well go through your full squad.
Let's see. Oh no, Jack Draper's down 2 sets to 1. I need Jack Draper.
Not Draper.
Come on, Jack. All right.
Jalen, you're killing me.
This is what you have done to us, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Just talk to the media already. Poor Zach. He's probably, what's his story going to be? Let's play that game.
See, here's another football head.
Okay.
Greg Rosenthal tweeting right now. Finished taping their post-game pod. Time to watch some blue court tennis. He's ready for the Australian Open too.
So since you're the Zach whisperer here,
okay,
where is Zach going with this story tonight that we can read tomorrow on allphly.com? Where does Zach
Let me get inside his mind here.
That's got to be tough.
I can't believe I made that thing the other day. Let me read these YouTube comments. I should have got more.
And shout out to all the commenters. We couldn't really see you tonight on the road, but we love you. And hit that like button while you're in here.
His story tonight, I mean, he's going to just say it's going to be about the implausibility that this is the way that this era may have ended. Like how bizarre it is that this Eagles team that was so high last year finishes on such an incredible low, and it's hard to explain. And it's now Jeffrey Lurie's job to try to explain it.
Yeah. The only other instance. Oh, what's up, Real Prince Blue with the super chat?
How did Jalen handle the blitz? Well, we scored 9 points.
Not well. Kyle Newbeck's in the chat. Hello, Kyle.
Noobs. Who is? Bodner.
What?
Derek the Body Bodner.
Well, guys, we've been here so long, the sad club music is no more, so. It's just us right now in the club. Kyle said this is what it used to be like waiting for Embiid
Crying
after
in
the
the
game. Were you ever a club guy?
No.
No? That shocks me, Bo.
Never. I don't know that I've, like, I would say...
I went in Vegas once.
I was going to say, I think the only time I've ever been to, like, a proper club was a bachelor party in Vegas.
Actually, in Acapulco, I went to some of those
Acapulco over here.
Spring break one year in college. Drugs and sex and house, like devil parties. You ever see those? Wild world those people live in. This guy comes out dressed as the devil, and he's swinging around like fire sticks, and I think half the people are tripping balls on E in there, and a lot of loud drugs and sex and house. It was pretty wild, like bubbles and light shows and all sorts of shit.
I like that Bubbles was like. And get this, they had bubbles.
Bubbles. Yeah, those were the only times. So twice in my life I've been in clubs, and it's quite a scene.
Well, you've outdone me.
Yeah.
I was too busy dancing in basements to Chris Brown.
And drafting tennis squads for the Australian Open.
No, the whole year. That's just the first of 4.
So who's the first
That's
overall
what makes
pick?
it interesting.
What do you do with Nadal? I mean, he might be done.
I think he went 14th in the 14th round.
Okay. So is Djokovic number one?
Djokovic does not. He's not eligible because he's too good.
Okay.
And you actually, if your player beats Djokovic, you get an extra point.
Oh.
Same rule applies to Sasha Zverev, because he is a dirtbag. And
first time I've ever heard that name.
And so if you beat Zverev, you also get an extra point. Those are the only 2 players who are ineligible.
Just because of his dirtbagness?
Yeah, he's like
because he's good,
a
real piece of shit.
Yes, that is the reporting.
Interesting. Well, maybe next year I'll hop in with you.
I'm sorry, you have not been invited.
I can name 3 tennis players. Where is my entry?
Okay, well, then maybe now you can play. Zach is on his way, so we will hear from Zach shortly.
Come on, Jalen.
Let's see. And I think the first question we have to ask him how many tennis players he can name.
I think that's clearly the most pressing issue here in the post-game show. Jalen, if you only knew what you're doing to the poor, wonderful staff here at Wicked Wolf.
You know what's funny is it didn't even occur to me how early the Eagles have a 22nd pick in the draft. That's not that late. In my mind, I just had them picking like 28th because that's like where it was over the course of the season. But
I did start looking at some mock drafts a couple weeks ago when I realized the season was over and coming to an end. The good thing, if you're like me and want to take a cornerback with your first pick, the top cornerback isn't typically going on most of the mocks I looked at until like 15, 16 range. So you're going to be right there. If you want to go get the top cornerback on the board, you might have that capability this year.
They can't be trading up. They need too much.
Trade up for a position they never historically draft that well?
They need too much stuff. They need to keep.
No,
those
you
three,
can't trade up. But the point is, if you do want cornerback, you're going to be in a decent area to get that. And I think they do need it. I mean, it's a young man's game, as we saw from Darius Slay and James Bradbury. It looks like Arnold from Alabama might be the first. He's projected to go 17 in this one I'm looking at. And then you get McKinstry from Alabama. So
Kool-Aid.
And then you get
That's the guy whose name I know.
Cooper DeJean. DeJean, whatever. The white guy from Iowa.
Yeah, Jason Sehorn 2.0.
If you want to change things up dramatically, you go get a white cornerback this offseason.
Yeah, there's the guy who will very quickly become the most popular Eagle in the city.
Could you imagine? I mean, if you're addicted to drama, just go get the white cornerback in the first round. Let's party.
Too weird even for me.
He's pretty good, actually.
He actually, I mean, by all accounts, seems like an awesome player.
Yeah, he does, but you can't.
All right, what do you want to hear from Zach?
I want to know what the vibe was.
You want to make him answer, him be accountable for everything that collapsed with this 2023 Eagles team?
Yeah, I want to know, Zach, why couldn't you pick up the blitz tonight? Why couldn't you help Brian Johnson come up with a game plan and Nick Sirianni to pick up a blitz? Because that was clearly coming from the start of the game until the end of the game, and you should have known better, and you should have had a plan, and you didn't, and you were really bad. Everybody, speak for yourself.
I think we got him. That's that special jingle that we get when we are joined by a guest.
Thank you, Jalen.
Thank you, Jalen.
For taking
Do we have the man?
so long.
We are efforting.
How's everybody in the chat doing in there? You guys hanging in
How's
there?
everybody doing tonight? Tip your servers.
Yeah.
Tip your smooth tea operators. And enjoy the smooth tea. We're here at Wicked Wolf, and we're joined by Zach Berman. Zach, first question, why?
Why am I so late? Or why did they lose? Why are
Interpret that as you may.
Yeah, there are. Well,
And
first
how?
off, I appreciate you guys waiting. I appreciate the live viewers and all those who are going to watch tomorrow. Jalen Hurts took a while to come out today. The locker room itself, some people were quick out, some people were hanging around. It was obviously a different post-game locker room than what you'd typically find. It was almost like the cleaning of the bags locker room, right? Like the clean out. There's a lot of people who are kind of saying their farewells now, it seems. There's a lot of people who are curious, there's an acknowledgement that change is coming. Now, what that change is, that's going to be the big question for the next few hours, next few days, but change is coming. I can paint the scene. I can tell you what people were saying. I spoke to a lot of people, from Lane Johnson to Hassan Reddick to obviously Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, Brandon Graham. Some notable people didn't talk. Jason Kelce didn't speak today. Fletcher Cox didn't speak today, from what I understand. So there's kind of still things to be figured out there. But the overriding, I spoke to Devontae Smith. The overriding sentiment from that locker room is that this is embarrassing and that there's going to be change. And we're all kind of trying to figure out what that change is. I heard an expression that's above my pay grade a few times. The person that's the person who makes this decision is obviously Jeffrey Lurie. I saw Jeffrey walk into the locker room. I didn't see him in the locker room when I was there. To paint the picture for the audience, Howie Roseman was outside the locker room as the players were coming off the field. I made sure I was down in the tunnel with 5 minutes to go. So I saw Howie greet every single player who came through there. Some with hugs, some with fist pounds, some were more emotional than others. But it's definitely, my quick summation is that I've covered ends of seasons when it's like pissed off. And today it wasn't as much pissed off as it was like resignation. It was embarrassment, but it was resignation that this has been coming and they couldn't fix it.
So let's start, Zach, with Sirianni, because that's,
Yes.
I think, where these discussions are headed. What was his tenor in the post-game press conference? And I guess tell us about Jalen Hurts' press conference as well.
Yeah, so I asked, well, first off, let's get to the job thing, because he was asked, do you expect to keep your job? And he said he's not thinking about that right now. He's thinking about the players. This isn't about him. This is about the players. That's where his thoughts are. He was asked when he's going to speak with Jeffrey Lurie these next few days. He said he didn't plan on losing this game, so he doesn't have a schedule for them losing. He'll work that out on the flight tonight back. I asked him how he got to this point, how they got to this point. And he gave kind of his longest answer there, which was essentially that they were in this rut that they could never shake out of. And that there was a lot of expectations on them going into the year. There were even more expectations when they were 10-1. And, they clearly felt the weight of those expectations. He didn't say they felt the weight of the expectations. That was kind of the implication, was that there was a lot on them, throughout the year. And they can never quite get out of that rut. And it kept spiraling, if you will. He was asked what confidence he has that he's the one to fix it. And he says, or why he's confident that he's the one who can fix it. He says he worked his ass off to get to the top of his profession. He has confidence in himself. Then there's a lot like micro toward the game that we can also get into, but that's kind of the big picture there. Then with Hurts, it was interesting. Hurts was asked, if he thinks Nick should stay, and he says, "Where's Nick going?" And he said he didn't. It's the first, he hadn't heard that Nick could go somewhere else. And then he said when he was asked what confidence he has that Nick could be the one who leads him, he says he's confident in all his coaches and all his players. That was kind of Hurts' statement. I thought one of the more interesting things Hurts said is that one of the things he learned this year. I wrote down the terminology, but I don't want to scroll through on here, but it's essentially that different seasons require different versions of yourself, and that there's different ways for him to kind of lead and come across based on the year. Because his point was the standard, to use that expression, the standard changes every year, and it's something that he has to mature with to kind of adjust to what that standard is, and be a different person depending on what the team needs. So I thought that was an interesting admission from him. He said clearly his finger's bothering him. We all know, he was dealing with something. He was asked about it. He didn't come out in like a cast or anything like that. I asked him about the safety. He said he has to watch out. He has to watch on film. He was trying to extend that play, and he thought he got rid of it, but I guess it didn't reach the line of scrimmage. But kind of the big picture stuff was a lot of Jalen speak, if you will, right? So that was the. I mean, there was more in Jalen from the big picture stuff. It was finding the beauty in the negative, or the positive in the negative. And the last time the season ended there, they came back next year and had a darn good year. So that's something that they can figure out.
One very quick micro question, Zach. Was Nick asked about the blitz? No plan for the blitz again in this game? Did he address that?
He was asked how Jalen handled the blitz, and he said that that it's not Jalen, it's the coaches and the players. It's not on one person. They didn't do a good enough job against the blitz.
Okay.
Zach, what do you make of this defensive just collapse here down the stretch? Is there any situation you see in your mind where Matt Patricia or Sean Desai return to this Eagles team?
No, no. This was pathetic. Honestly, this defensive performance, this defensive effort, and it's the offense too. The offense only scored 9 points, right? But
sure. Yeah.
But you asked about the defense. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't tackle. Their angles were bad. There was no, I can't. That's gonna be one of the big things. If Nick's back, he's gonna have to have like a high profile defensive coordinator hired to fix this, and that's gonna be a big offseason change, if you will. But no, what I see from the defense, yeah, that the defense couldn't stop them. Like they couldn't tackle. And Nick said no teams are tackling, to the ground this time of year. There's different ways you can work on it, but where I'll push back is that Nick was kind of defiant these past 2 weeks whenever tackling comes up, and he's been using this stat that they're third in the league in missed tackle rate, right? Like that this isn't a problem. This is an isolated problem. Well, in the playoff game here, it was a major problem, and it was part of why they lost tonight. So, yeah, one of the things that I think is fascinating as you kind of look at where Sirianni is that his core principles are part of the reason why they lost. They didn't have fundamentals, right? Accountability. I don't know how accountable this group has been. If you talk about connection, there's clearly stuff going on. Compete. They're not competing out there, right? So yeah. So
football?
that what's that?
Situational football?
Yeah, football IQ. Yeah. So that's yeah. I think they kind of violated each of the core principles this year.
All right, Zach, we're close to up against time here. So I guess the last thing is paint us the picture of the guys you did talk to in the locker room. What was their general reaction to everything?
Well, yeah. So real quick, it sounds like Brandon Graham wants to come back next season. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter and you discussed it on the show, but Brandon Graham kind of described having one more year to play. Lane Johnson says he has a few more good years left. He expects to be part of the solution here. He says shit's got to change, and that they got to figure out how to do it. Devontae Smith kept talking about execution, and that was the problem. When he was asked about the running game, he said, you can't really run against split zero. They had to make plays through the air. So that was something that Devontae said. Hassan Reddick had a defiant or defense. He was defending Nick Sirianni, really standing up for Sirianni in that regard. So it's just going around the locker room, but there was a lot of like almost farewells and like I said, it didn't seem as much pissed off as resigned. That was the big thing. It was this has been coming. They kept trying to fix it. I mean, I spoke to Jordan Mailata. He said he was embarrassed, right? So there was a lot of embarrassment. There was but I found it more. It's the same stuff that's been happening these past few weeks. They've talked about it. They've tried. I heard a few players say to me, "There's no explanation," right? They've tried to explain it. They've given all. Lane Johnson said they've given all these answers and all these press conferences trying to explain it. There's nothing to explain. They play like crap, right? So that's the reality of the situation.
All right. Well, Zach, you and I will have a show tomorrow night that we can talk about everything we hear. Now, do we know are they doing locker room tomorrow afternoon?
No. So we'll have flexibility. I think tomorrow. My guess it certainly sounds like the team's not going to get back till 4:30. I think their exit meetings are probably going to be Wednesday at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, on Wednesday at this point.
Got it. Okay. Well, in that case, you and I will have a show tomorrow, and we'll have plenty to talk about.
Do you think, Zach, real quick, just gut reaction, do you think anything happens before those exit interviews on Wednesday?
I mean, look, I don't think Nick Sirianni should lose his job. I said that, but it's hard to defend the way the season ends, and it's the business they chose, right? So it's one thing if this game was like 24-21 and they played a great performance, and then and Baker Mayfield was just out of his mind or something like that. They got humiliated. It was what Bo said after the Cowboys game when we did that show. This was the worst case scenario.
Worse.
Exponential. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Eagles reporters are going to be sleeping much during these next 48 hours because
but when do you ever sleep, Zach?
Yeah, no, but I think that stay on allphly.com. There might be, check out YouTube. There might be emergency shows coming because this is an emergency situation for the Eagles.
Well, that's well said, Zach. Safe flight. We look forward to reading what you're going to write on All PHL. Give us like a 15-second tease for what you're writing.
What the hell happened, and how they responded to it, and where this is going.
Okay. Well, we look forward to reading that on allphly.com. Thank you to everybody who came out to Wicked Wulf tonight to watch the game with us, depressing as it may have been. Thanks to Smooth T for making it all happen. And thank you to everybody who watched our shows, post-game shows all season long. Jamie, thank you to you.
Yeah, I guess last time we'll be on mic together for a while. So it was a lot of fun doing the actual show. The results the last 7 weeks, not as fun here. But
well, now you and I can continue our date in private as we sidle up here.
We got the club to ourselves,
That's
Bo.
right. Hashtag Wolf knows. Thanks, everybody. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles postgame show. The Eagles season comes to an end with a 32-9, and there's a chance that the Nick Sirianni era ends.
Oh, it's over.
The same way that his first season ended only 2 seasons ago with an embarrassing loss in Tampa to the Buccaneers. And as Zach said, we will have you covered no matter what happens this week on All PHLY. That's it. That's all we've got.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you to Julia and Chris for hanging around and making this thing happen. Where would we be without you? Just having our date alone. That'll do it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of the late night Australian Open coverage, everybody. And we will talk to you tomorrow. As always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.